Hello, my name is Andrew Hodgson and welcome to my YouTube channel where in 10 minutes or less we talk about life, faith, and what it means to be a follower of Jesus today. Have you ever heard the phrase childlike faith and thought to yourself, what does that even mean? Well, today I'm going to unpack that phrase and what I believe to be 4 marks of an individual who has childlike faith. First off, I want to say that if you are a follower of Jesus, you have a measure of faith. You have faith. Ephesians 2, 8-9 says this, "For it is by grace that you have been saved through faith. And this is not from yourselves, but it is a gift from God." Basically, you couldn't even be a follower of Jesus if he hadn't supplied you with some measure of faith so that you could believe he is who he says he is. It's not some special spiritual gift that's only reserved for the elect few. It's actually something that we all have. Now, yes, there is a spiritual gift of faith, but that's not what we're talking about here today. We're just talking about faith and childlike faith, to be specific. So then what is childlike faith, and how do I know if I have it, and why does Jesus even want us to have it? Well, actually, Jesus never says to have childlike faith. Mic drop. But he does tell us to become like little children. Matthew 18 verse 3, Jesus says this, "Truly I tell you, unless you become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Okay, great. So what does that mean? Well, this is one of those moments where Jesus is dealing with our beliefs. See, Jesus wants us to become more mature as we follow him, but Christian maturity doesn't really look the way we think it looks. See, in the natural realm, maturity looks like independence. But in the spiritual realm, in our walk with Jesus, maturity looks like childlikeness. Independence in our culture is all about growing up and getting more and more independent. Hashtag adulting and learning how to cook and pay bills and wash your underpants. But in our walk with Jesus, maturity doesn't look like that. Maturity looks like childlikeness. Now, my wife Laura and I have 3 beautiful daughters, and if there's one thing they've taught me, it's how to be childlike. So without further ado, here are 4 marks of childlikeness. Number 1, curiosity. Kids are crazy curious. They're always checking things out, trying to learn new things, and they ask tons of questions. Number 2, risk takers. They take risks and try to do things they see their mom, their dad, their siblings, their friends and family doing. In fact, if they weren't risk takers, they would never have learned how to walk. Number 3, believers. They take mom and dad at their word. They believe us and they trust us. Number 4, dependent. They rely on their parents for everything. Clothing, food, shelter. For the first few years of their life, if we don't supply it, they don't get it. So how does this relate to our walk with Jesus and his comments in Matthew 18 about becoming like children? Well, here are the 4 marks of a childlike follower of Jesus. Number 1, be curious. Ask questions, lots of questions. Ask pastors, friends, and family members. Ask God questions. It's good to ask questions. Someone with questions is someone engaging with their faith. So ask questions. If you have questions, open up your Bible and get God's answer and find his heart on that matter. Number 2, be a risk taker. If we never took those first few steps as little children, we would never have learned how to walk. Being a risk taker is part of our growth. I remember the first few times that I shared Jesus with friends and coworkers, and honestly, it was awkward and weird and I fumbled over words, but eventually I got into a groove and I got a little bit better at it. We would never grow if it weren't for that risk taking. So we need to be risk takers. Check out my last video where I talk about Peter, who took a really big risk in Matthew 14. I put the link to that video in the description below. The 3rd mark of someone who is a childlike follower of Jesus is that they are a believer. What if we took God at his word? What if we started to believe he is who he says he is and we are who he says we are? The world doesn't need more followers who don't take God at his word. The world needs followers of Jesus who believe him even when he says ridiculous things, like in Matthew 14, when he says, "I tell you the truth, anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have been doing and even greater works because I'm going to the Father." So let's be people of big beliefs because we have a big God. The 4th and final mark of a childlike follower of Jesus: be dependent. It feels so uncomfortable at times, but we need to learn how to be dependent on Him. Part of childlikeness is taking our dependence and attaching it to His abundance. In the desert, Israel learned how to be dependent on God for everything. If God didn't show up, they wouldn't have had food or water. Large portions of them would have been killed off by snake bites, and even their shoes would have worn out. But in the desert, God taught them about His abundance. He is good beyond measure, so let's be dependent on Him. Jesus didn't intend us to try and muster up some special, ethereal, pie-in-the-sky level of faith called childlike faith. Sounds like the black belt of faith. But He called us to become like children in our relationship with Him. So be curious, be a risk taker, be a believer, and be dependent. Those are what I believe are the 4 marks of someone who is a childlike follower of Jesus. So do you feel like you're becoming more childlike? Do you agree or disagree with the 4 marks of childlikeness? I'd love to keep the conversation, so comment below and let's keep it rolling. If you haven't already, I'd be stoked if you hit the like button or smash it or whatever the kids are doing these days. And if this is the kind of content you like and you want to see more of it, it would be really cool if you hit that subscribe button with the little bell so that you can stay notified every time there's a new video. See ya!